Hello and welcome to the MBOM podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. MBOM is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at MBOM, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Mastering the Business of Yoga, and happy 2022. I am really excited that you're here with me today because we are going to kick off the new year in a really fun way, which is doing some goal setting. And I don't know about you, but I really love spending some time at the end of the year reflecting on how the past year has gone, and then at the beginning of the year setting some new goals for myself. Now, because we're already into 2022, we're already into January, some of you may have already done this, but I think it's fun to always come back to it, reflect on it, refine it, just see how things are going. So hopefully this will give you a little bit of context and, help and support with setting some goals for yourself. And I really hope that you've had a wonderful holiday season. I hope you were able to take some time away from your business and just enjoy time with family and friends. And hopefully you're feeling, ready to dive back into it. I know I certainly am. So I'm excited to dive into today's episode with everyone here today. Before we get into it, I wanted to give a shout out to this week's sponsor, Offering Tree. Offering Tree is your one-stop shop for all things marketing in your yoga business. So everything from your website to your class schedule, payments, one-on-one bookings, courses, memberships, and so much more. And you're going to hear more about Offering Tree a little bit later on in the episode, but if you'd like to check them out, make sure you head on over to offeringtree.com/MBOM. That link gives you a little bit of a discount in case you want to sign up with them. I'm also really excited to share a new partnership with you guys that I have going on. It is with MagicMind. MagicMind is a productivity drink that is made of all natural ingredients and has adaptogens to help decrease stress, nootropics that boost blood flow, and matcha to help keep you focused. So I am joining you here today with my MagicMind productivity drink at my side. It's going to help me get through everything that we're going to cover with this goal setting episode. And if you want to check them out, head on over to magicmind.co/yoga, and you can use the code yoga20 for 20% off. I'm going to tell you more about them a little bit later on in the episode, but just know that we've got a little discount code for you. All right, so let's kick off this episode of the show. And I want to start by just grounding ourselves. So you might be driving, you might be walking, you might be doing dishes or with your children or something like that, and it might not be possible to close your eyes. And if that's the case for you, that's all right. But if you're able to just take a moment to sit still for a second and tune into your body, that would be lovely. So find a comfortable seat to the best of your ability. Draw your shoulders up towards your ears and then down your spine, and really reach your head, the crown of your head, towards the ceiling. Now close your eyes if that's safe and comfortable for you, and just tune into your breath. Feel the inhales and exhales come in and out of your body. And just notice the quality of your breath today in this moment and how you're feeling. And now let's deepen that breath. Take a nice deep inhale in through your nose, expand the chest, expand the belly, fill the lungs. And then as you exhale, allow all your air to leave. So when you think all the air is gone, maybe just try to exhale a little bit more. Twice more just like that. Inhale deeply, fill the belly, fill the lungs, fill the chest. And then exhale all air out. One more time, in through the nose. Fill the chest, fill the lungs, fill the belly. Exhale, allow all your air to leave. Beautiful. And now bring your awareness into your mind's eye. And I want you to think back to this time last year, to January 2021, and how you were feeling in that moment. And it might be hard to kind of tune into that because we've gone through so much over the last 12 months, 365 days, but just see if you can really tune into that space. See if you can tune into how you were feeling in that moment, what you were excited about. And now I want you to do kind of like a quick highlight reel almost, or like a movie trailer of your year. So go through January, what happened in January, move into February. Remember where you were, what you were doing, what you were focusing on in your business. Now we'll come into March. And then into April. Moving into May, June, July. Now heading into the most recent quarter with September, October, November, and finally this last month of December 2021. And hopefully you have a very brief, high-level overview of this last year and what that's looked like for you. And I want you to hold that close in your mind's eye and just think about this last year. Think about how this year went, how this year felt. Really feel it in your body. And think about what you're letting go of for this last year and what you're carrying forwards. So this could be actual tasks. This could be energetics. This could be people in your life. Just want to think about what you're carrying forwards from, December 31st, 2021 to January 1st, 2022. And now I want you to get clear on how you want to feel this upcoming year. Maybe think about a few words that you want to feel, a few things you might want to accomplish. And don't worry if it doesn't come right away. We're going to dive into this. This is what this episode's all about. But just starting to get a sense for that. And whatever that is for you, just hold that close. Feel it in your body. We'll take a couple more breaths with that before we get into some of the more tangible aspects of what we're going to do. All right, as you're ready, slowly bring awareness back to your body. And then if your eyes were closed, slowly blink those open. And if anything came up for you that you want to take a pause to maybe write down or journal about, of course, hit pause on this episode. Go ahead and do that. And otherwise, I'd really love for you to take a moment to grab, a paper and pen or maybe a journal or something like that. If you're in a place where you can actually write things down, and then you can pause along the way and actually reflect on things as we go. And if you're not in a place where you can do that, of course, you can always just hit pause on your app and just have a think about it. Or maybe you just listen all the way through and then you come back to this a little bit later. And so what I'd like you to do is, we just reflected on the last year, but I'd really like you to get clear on what your goals from 2021 were and reflect on them, reflect on how they went. So what I actually did for this portion is I actually pulled up what my 2021 goals were, so I can give you some examples of how we actually can begin this reflection of how the previous year went. So last year, I split my goals up between personal development goals and career, business, and financial goals. So those are the ones that I'll be looking at. So just to give you a couple of examples, some of my personal development goals were meditate daily, daily movement and exercise, to complete my Ayurveda certificate, to continue hormone yoga, which is a practice that I was doing quite regularly at the end of 2020. And to work towards good physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health, to be cooking and eating healthy meals, limited time on social media, and not drinking alcohol regularly. So those were my personal development goals. And then some of my career, business, and financial goals were to maintain and grow downloads for MBO, to launch my courses, to continue the World Wanders podcast, which is the other podcast I run with my husband bi-weekly, to create a new lead magnet for that show. We had a plan of launching another website about work and travel, and then I'd written down to double the MBO mailing list. Another one of my goals was to start investing monthly, to pay off a little bit of debt I had and spend within my means, and to increase my monthly revenue that I was making in my business by the end of 2021. So those are the goals that I outlined. Hopefully you had some goals for 2021. If you didn't actually do goal setting, if you're totally new to this, maybe just having to think about what came up during that meditation that you really wanted to achieve in 2021 and starting to reflect on that. And so basically, we start by pulling up our goals, which I just gave you an example of how I did that, and then reflecting on them. So I'll just walk you through how my reflection looks like with these goals. So in terms of meditating daily, that's actually a goal that I was able to achieve in 2021. It wasn't, every single day, but I have built a pretty strong regular meditation practice, which feels really good. I also have a really regular routine in the mornings, a regular morning routine that includes movement, which is really amazing. So I've also been able to do that. My Ayurveda certificate, I'm well on my way to completing. I have until the end of February to complete it. So I will be doing that, which I'm very excited about. I continued hormone yoga until I got pregnant. It's not a practice that you do once you're pregnant. And I have continued to work towards good physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. One thing I will say is that something like working towards good physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health is really vague. This is actually not a really good goal to kind of quantify if I did it or not. But I do feel that this was something that I continued to work on, especially with my pregnancy. Cooking and eating healthy meals had its moments because I travel a lot and love to eat at restaurants with friends and family. That's always a hard one. But for the most part, my husband and I did a lot of cooking this year. I did limit time on social media. Again, it was better sometimes than others. And I have not been drinking alcohol regularly since I have been pregnant since May. So that ended up working out for me. In terms of my career goals, I was able to maintain my downloads, but they didn't grow as much as I wanted them to. I have not yet launched my courses. I'm hoping to do it before I go on maternity leave, but we'll see if there's enough time for that and when baby comes. We did continue the World Wanders and were able to get a new lead magnet out. Unfortunately, we weren't able to launch the new project that we were working on, and there was a number of reasons for that. I was able to double my mailing list as well as invest, not monthly, but I was able to kind of take a chunk of money and invest that in sort of like a one investment versus like a monthly investment. I did pay off my debt and I've got a budget, which is really great. That's really something I've been working on, especially with maternity leave around the corner. And I was able to increase my monthly revenue and meet the goal that I set for myself. So in terms of my goals, I feel like I did a lot better on my personal development goals than I did on my career goals. But I also feel pretty good with where, everything's at. And this was something that I talked about in the last episode of the show we did, where I did the 2021 year in review. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit down. I want you to pull up your goals for 2021 and I want you to reflect on them. How did they go? Did you accomplish them? Did you achieve them? Do you feel successful with them? How did they go? There's no right or wrong with this. It's just however you're feeling about the goals and how you're feeling about how things went. So you might want to just have a think about it. You might want to pause the episode and actually journal about it, which is something I would definitely recommend. And once you come back, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at what went well for you in your business in 2021. And so we're really diving into business, but if you also have some personal reflections or some personal development that you feel really aided in your business, you can also, talk about that. Like for me, for example, I feel like having a regular meditation practice as well as having a regular morning routine with movement and exercise has been so beneficial for me, both physically, mentally, emotionally, but also for my business. It's so helpful to have a base to start the day. So that's something that, even though it was more of a personal development goal, I feel like has really helped me in my business. And I reflected on quite a bit of this for me in my 2021 year in review episode. So I'm not going to go too much into depth with this, but just really think about, based on your goals and your reflection on them, what went well. So you can hit pause and then do that, or continue on. And the next thing that you're going to do is think about what didn't go well in 2021. So I think it's really important to, be optimistic, be positive, but I also think it's important to live in reality. And the reality is that there's things that can be challenging. And for me, what didn't go well in my business this last year was that I wasn't able to accomplish all the projects that I wanted to do. And my courses are one thing that come to mind, where I just was never really prioritizing them. I was never really actually executing a plan for them. And one of the things we're going to talk about in next week's podcast episode with Renee Claire is how to actually get this stuff done. So how to set goals for yourself and then how to actually get it done, because this is one of the things that can be so challenging, especially as a business owner, is we can kind of get on our treadmill a little bit and just be head down doing the work every day. And obviously that is so, so important. But it can also mean that at the end of the year, we look back on the year and are like, oh crap, I didn't actually do this. So it might be something like that, where you didn't actually execute on a goal, like myself. Maybe something like the pandemic has been really challenging for you. So just think about what didn't go well in 2021. And then the final question that I'd like you to think about when it comes to reflecting on 2021 is, are there any goals that you're carrying forward into 2022, especially maybe your quarter 4 or Q4 goals that didn't get done, or bigger ongoing goals, kind of like those course examples for me. Those are ones from 2021 that I'm carrying over to 2022. And sometimes even with goals that we're carrying over, it might be something like, hey, yes, I have a really solid morning meditation practice and I have a really solid morning routine. And yes, I feel like I'm really, really good with that and whatnot, but it's still a goal for me to continue that. So sometimes it's like a continuation of a goal. So think about what you're going to carry forward into 2022. So you might want to take a moment and reflect upon that as well before we really dive into the nitty-gritty of 2022. And before we get into 2022 in more detail, I want to tell you a little bit more about MagicMind. I mentioned MagicMind at the beginning of the podcast episode, and they're a productivity drink that I'm kind of obsessed with right now. And I mentioned before that they have all natural ingredients and adaptogens and all that good stuff. And one of the other things I want to let you know about is the caffeine portion of it. I am super sensitive to caffeine, which means that I really can't drink coffee all day to stay energized and productive. And honestly, I feel quite jittery from even just, a regular Americano. I'm more of a decaf gal. And so you don't get that same sort of hit of energy. And this is one of the reasons that I really love MagicMind. There's minimal caffeine, so you can get energized without getting the caffeine jitters and then the caffeine crash. And you guys know that I love matcha. I have a podcast called Matcha Mornings. That's how much I love it. And so one of the things that I love to do with MagicMind is have it in the afternoon when that leg kind of hits. And I love to make it as a matcha latte. I just feel like it tastes so good. It's healthy and it helps me get into a flow state for all the work that I need to do. So I would definitely recommend, if you're looking for an alternative to coffee, if you're looking for a low caffeine productivity drink, I would definitely recommend checking out MagicMind. Once again, it's magicmind.co/yoga, and you can use the code yoga20 for 20% off. So that's magicmind.co/yoga and use the code yoga20 for 20% off. All right, so let's get back into it. Let's get into the heart of 2022 and setting some goals for 2022. So I want to give you a couple of prompts for ways that you can kind of go about setting your goals for 2022. So the first one is, what is one word or intention that you'd like to use for 2022? And so I'll give you an example of the word that I set for 2022. And I actually chose 2 this year. So mine are trust and surrender. And these have a lot to do with the fact that I'll be having a baby really soon. And, I'm starting kind of a new chapter of my life, you could say. And so those are really related to that. So I'd love for you to think about what you have in store for you in 2022. And obviously we don't know everything, but what plans do you have? What, do you want to accomplish this year? What is the overall vibe that you want of the year and out of the year? And that's something to really think about when it comes to setting your word or setting your intention. The next thing I'd like for you to think about is, what is the biggest goal that you'd like to achieve for 2022? So you could break this down like I did for 2021 into both personal and professional goals. So for me, some big goals for 2022 are obviously, stepping into motherhood with as much grace and ease as I can. So that's a big personal goal. And then professionally is to, just continue my business. And for me, this has been a little bit challenging because I've got things, backlogged and batched for kind of the first, half of the year. So Q1, Q2, and I don't really know what Q3 and Q4 look like because I'm entering this new journey where I don't really know what to expect or what it's going to be like. So for me, my goals are feeling a little bit more vague, especially around work for this upcoming year. And I would really encourage you to be setting goals that are more quantifiable, more tangible. If you're saying something like, my biggest goal for this year is to make more money, what does that actually mean? Or my biggest goal for this year is to reach more students. What does that actually mean? So you want to be as clear as possible when it comes to setting your goals. So I want you to think about what your biggest goal that you'd like to achieve for this year is, and sit with that, write that out, get really clear on like, what is one thing that you're really, really adamant about this year that you really want to achieve this year. Like I said before, is it more money? Is it more students? Is it setting boundaries? Is it more time? Is it, more balance between your business and your personal life? Is it kickstarting your yoga career? Is it launching a new program? Is it launching a course? What is the biggest thing that you'd like to achieve in 2022? So have a little think about that, journal about that if you've got the opportunity. And then I'd like for you to think about what else you would like to accomplish by the end of 2022, and really break this down into those personal goals and professional goals and kind of write out all of your goals here. So this is a chance to make a list, kind of like the list that I shared at the beginning of this episode, with a lot of different goals. So you might have goals like I did related to, your personal practices, your health and wellness, all of that type of stuff. And then you might also have quite a few goals related to your business. So maybe your big goal is to make more money, and your little goals are to teach X amount of classes, run X amount of workshops, reach X amount of students, send X amount of newsletters, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of different things you can do with this. And I say X amount because I really, really want you to quantify this. I think it's really important that we're doing that. And we're going to take a little pause to hear from our sponsor for this episode, Offering Tree. If you've been teaching free yoga classes for a while, it might be time to start charging. I know when you hear that, you might cringe a little bit inside. It can be super scary to take the leap to charging for your yoga classes. But here's a way that you can bridge the gap and transition from teaching free to paid classes. And it keeps your yoga classes accessible for everyone. If you're teaching free classes, I recommend giving people the option to pay you. This is really easy to set up an offering tree. Offering Tree is the website and software platform I recommend to anyone who's looking to grow their yoga or wellness business. With Offering Tree, you can offer both donation-based and sliding scale payment options for your yoga classes. That means that your students can choose an amount that feels right for them or pick from a few different pricing options that you've laid out. Instead of receiving random PayPal or Venmo deposits as donations for your free classes, now everything is in one place with Offering Tree. The best part about this is that it's super easy to set up, and you can do it right from the same place where you enter your regular price. So whether your class is going to be free, $20, or you want to set sliding scale, it is super easy to set up. I'm partnering with Offering Tree to offer a special discount to you, my listeners. If you're looking for a scheduling tool or website that's easy enough for you to set up yourself, go to offeringtree.com/MBO for a 15% discount off 1 year of Offering Tree or 15% off the first 3 months. Once again, that's offeringtree.com/MBO. All right, now back to the episode. All right, friends, we're back and we are heading into our last section of this podcast episode in terms of setting goals. And that is really diving into Q1 or quarter one. So if you're not familiar with the concept of quarters, basically you can split the year into 4 quarters. So Q1 is January until the end of March. And the reason that people do this, the reason that businesses do this is because it allows you to kind of look at these bigger year-long goals, but then break them up into 4 quarters. And by having some sort of an end date that's not December 31st of the year, you can kind of just monitor how things are going. So you can kind of look at how the first 3 months of the year are going, what goals you have specifically to that portion of the year, et cetera, et cetera. So some goals that you might want to set for Q1 are maybe, goals that are related to events or things that you want to actually do or host in the first 3 months of the year. Maybe there are different types of goals that need to be built off of. So maybe you need to do something before you can do something else, for example. So what I want you to think about here are what are the most important goals for you to complete in Q1 of 2022. So think about from now, January, until the end of March. What are the things that you would really like to accomplish? What are your most important goals? And so maybe that's something like, hey, I want to start a regular morning routine and I really want to have it solid, like in my routine. Don't stray from it by the end of Q1. You might also have something like, I want to host 1 workshop or create 1 course or something like that during this portion of the year. So really think about what's most important for you to complete in the first 3 months of the year and write all of that down. And so once you've got your most important goals or most important tasks essentially for Q1, what I want you to do is look at each goal that's on your list and write out the tasks that you need to be accomplished to complete these goals. So let me give you an example. So say your goal is to host a workshop where you have 20 people attending, 20 paid people, and you want to do that at the beginning of March. So then you want to write out all of the tasks that need to happen for you to actually get this goal done. So deciding on the workshop topic, deciding on the workshop date, deciding on how much the price is going to be, writing a description for it, getting it scheduled, putting together a marketing plan, and then starting to actually execute on that marketing plan. Those would be a lot of the tasks that would be involved with something like planning out a workshop for the first, quarter of the year. And for me, I might even take this a step further by actually scheduling this stuff in. I feel like for me, when I have some accountability with actually being able to schedule, the different tasks into my schedule, that's something that can actually help me, get the things done that I need to get done. And like I said before, we're going to do an episode next week with Renee Claire all about this. She's going to kind of take this to the next level in terms of how we actually, do this and be productive, because it can be quite hard. So the last thing that I'd like you to reflect on or to do would be to think about what would it feel like to accomplish these goals. So I want you to take some time to just really sit with and brainstorm, what it would feel like to accomplish goals. I know for me, every year I set goals, and every year there's goals that I don't achieve. And, of course, there's many, many goals that I do achieve, and that feels really good. But I think sometimes it's really easy to get caught up in the goals that we don't achieve and to kind of think like, oh, I failed this year. I didn't do everything that I wanted to do. And so instead of focusing on, the potential for not getting your goals done because you're going to have a really great plan in place, I want you to think about what it would feel like for you to accomplish these goals. And so that might be a time where you sit in meditation again, or perhaps you journal and just really try to embody, like, what would it feel like at the end of March to have hosted that workshop and got those 20 people in and made the amount of money that I wanted to make? What would it feel like at the end of 2022 to be sitting down and doing this reflection and being like, what went well? What went well is that I accomplished all of my goals this year, and I feel like a total boss in my business. So just really thinking about what you want out of this year and how it would feel to achieve this. So thinking ahead to yourself in December 2022 or even January 2023, which is 2023 seems so far away right now. But just thinking about at that point how you would feel and the sense of accomplishment that you would feel if you did achieve these goals. So sit with that, sit with all of these questions. All of these prompts will be on the show notes. You can go check them out in case you were driving or walking and you want to sit down with this later on. And I hope that this has been helpful for getting some clarity on, wrapping up 2021, really putting 2021 kind of behind us, bringing forward what we want, leaving behind what we don't want, and then setting goals for the year, and then really getting specific about what we're doing for the next 3 months. So hopefully you feel very clear on that. Hopefully you've got a plan. Hopefully you're feeling really excited. I know I am. I think this is going to be a really awesome year. Of course, if you have any questions, make sure that you do reach out. I would love to hear from you. And I just want to thank you so much for listening to this first episode of 2022. I hope that it's been helpful and set you up for success. And of course, a big shout out to Offering Tree for sponsoring this episode. Make sure you check them out, offeringtree.com/MBO. And to MagicMind, make sure you check them out, magicmind.co/yoga. The code yoga20 gets you 20% off their products. Make sure you go check them out, especially if you are ready to hit the ground running for this year and looking for some, healthy alternatives for productivity. All right. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in for this episode of the podcast. To find links, notes, resources, and everything mentioned in today and all episodes of the show, you can head on over to mbomyoga.com. You can find the podcast and myself on Facebook and social media at Mastering the Business of Yoga. And I would love for you to join the private Facebook community, Yoga Business Badasses. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please make sure you reach out to me at info@mbomyoga.com. And last of all, if you enjoyed this episode of the show, please make sure you hit subscribe and leave a review for the podcast. It would mean the world. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.